Hello malt mates, hello whisky fans, I'm Ralphie and welcome to this dusty story, which basically is a Scottish word for old, dusty and dilapidated. Stone building called the Bothy. Not just any old bothy, it's the Whisky Bothy, and here is where you will find eccentric, original, and I would say, in my opinion, just suggesting that they're fairly original and have some decent content in these reviews. Because I've been around whisky for a long time, I still enjoy it, despite the fact that it's always slightly off-putting when you have a bad bottle of whisky. And one of the great skills of improving our experiences is avoiding the bad ones more easily and investing in the good ones more carefully. And that is what I'm doing at the moment with this. This is Kilkerran. Lovely stuff. It's from Glengyle Distillery. It's 8 years old. It's bourbon cask matured and it's bottled at 57.7%. And this costs me about £55, which for a high strength, quality made whisky, in my opinion, is a pretty good price in this day and age. So welcome to Ralphie Review in the Whisky Bothy, number 1131. And cheers, here's to you folks. I'm now going to smell this, taste this, and tell you all about it. I've got quite a few Kilkerran reviews in my channel. Good start. Very buttery. It's a very buttery, sprightly, zesty and buttery in the nose. It's got quite the creme brulee going on, and I really enjoy that. I enjoy young whiskies which are vibrant. You very rarely get any whiskies over 25 years which you could call vibrant, because the vibrancy of the spirit itself has been well and truly rounded off, subsumed and incorporated by the influence of the cask. Younger whisky is often better, and I certainly think that is the case with Kilkerran. This is the unpeated. It's not completely unpeated, but it's relatively unpeated version. They do a heavily peated version, which I do recommend. You'll find plenty of my reviews in the search box of my channel, which is just above my introduction video. You'll find these reviews in the archives, lots of them, and it now includes this. So just spending a couple of minutes just with the nose. I mean, what's the hurry? A well-made whisky, it needs to be fully appreciated, and an important part of that appreciation is taking the time to make the time to actually give it the time. This is from the sister distillery of Springbank. It's based in Campbelltown, and funnily enough, it's the one distillery, Glengyle Distillery, that when you ask people to name two distilleries or name the distilleries in Campbelltown, they'll start with Springbank and then go on to Glen Scotia, and people actually forget about Glengyle Distillery because the Kilkerran brand is unusually for Scotland not named after the distillery because of copyright purchase agreement issues. That's the reason. First taste, and bear in mind, this is a high strength whisky, 57.7% alcohol. Just a tiny drop. Highly intense, but highly drinkable neat. Remarkably so. It really is a testament to careful, meticulous distillation, which is not too slow but not too fast either. Clean cuts from the still, but not too clean, because it's going into the faints a little bit to give a nice little combination of marshmallow, marzipan and linseed oil, and that's what I get. It really is integrated into a certain green herbaceous note. And to help you get your bearings with this whisky, I would also say it's quite significant that Glengyle Distillery lies remarkably close to the island of Ireland. And as such, I think there's a lot of Irish whisky characteristic in this bottling. I'd also add that by and large, Scotch whiskies that behave like Irish whiskies are usually cheaper than Irish whiskies because the cost of making Irish whisky is very high and there's lots of bureaucracy that Irish distillers have to navigate. In fact, in my opinion, too much. Back to the whisky. I am now going to add a drop of water. It may surprise a few of your Ralphie regulars, but I'm not actually going to add that much. And because this whisky, because I've been practicing over the last month or so, I'm going to do, now I won't, not even a full teaspoon, 4 millilitres of water, which is below less than my standard measure. There's a reason for this. Kilkerran is actually quite a delicate, complex whisky. And it's very easy looking at the strength to say, pile the water in, and then you weaken it to the extent that, sure, you get a great whisky experience, but you're losing the detail. It's just the way this whisky calibrates. So, back to the nose. I've added the water, not much. This is unchill filtered. It is natural colour. It is completely unpretentious. You won't see any bling adverts, marketing initiatives and great big wine and dine events for influencers coming from Glengyle Distillery, which I say is very healthy and quite refreshing. I really, really like this nose. It is yeasty, it is cereal rich, lots of barley sugar and a little bit of grain fudge, barley grain fudge. It's almost getting into kind of barley sort of dessert biscuits territory, but it doesn't quite get there in the nose. There's a little bit of guava, there's certainly a drop of pineapple, and there's something slightly fusile and green about it. Green and herbaceous, a touch of chlorophyll, a touch of camphor, just a little hint of camphor, and some green, dark green sage. So we're talking savoury and slightly bitter herb here. It reminds me a little bit of chewing dandelion leaves. I better explain that one. You, like myself, have been indoctrinated at school to believe that certain things, it's part of what's called social programming. And one of the things at school was that if you picked a dandelion and you got any of the sap out of the stalk on your skin, you would inevitably pee the bed that night. This, of course, is complete claptrap and nonsense. What was never discussed is the fact that dandelions are actually one of the most widely available and authentic natural medicinal herbs available to us. If you've got dandelions where you are, make a point of picking the dandelions when they're fully in bloom, looking like little radiant sunshines, and eat the flowers. Harvest the leaves. Harvest the roots. The roots can make a very good mock coffee if you roast them gently enough. There is a suggestion, and I'm not in medicine, apart from the medicinal use of whisky, to comment on this, but I firmly believe that there are profound medicinal preventative medicine benefits from consuming a number of what is euphemistically called weeds from the garden. Back to this whisky. I've given it a few minutes to open up. It is, after all, 8 years old, so I think I've given it just short of 8 minutes. A minute in the glass for each year in the cask, particularly if it cask strength, unchill filtered, natural colour. That is natural colour. All good. We can proceed. Back to the nose, slightly dilute. Creaminess is coming out. Green camphor notes. Oh boy, this is Irish. It's well Irish. It's slightly minty as well. And the taste. Holding it in the mouth, it's going nowhere. Hold, hold, hold. Intense, soft, vanilla resin. Resinously vanilla. Gorgeous, evolving, savoury note in the development. Those green herbs are in there in the background and running like a thick ribbon throughout the arrival, throughout the development and into the finish is this splendid, almost butterscotch, dry, herbaceous butterscotch note. Young Kilkerrans are my favourite style of Kilkerran. I've tried and I've reviewed older ones. Not so long ago I reviewed the 16-year-old. I think this is better. I think this is a single malt that's better, younger. And I think it's because of the quality of distillation, the calibre of manufacture, and the sheer amount of skill and experience that is really on show on every single pour, which makes me quite a fan of this whisky. And then there's more, because when you go into shop to buy it, there's no fancy carton, there's no suggested marketing, there's no team with big friendly smiles and tartan somewhere who are waiting to pour your dram to try and sell you a product. None of that. This is a dram that you find in your travels, and particularly if you're a more experienced whisky drinker, you're really going to understand this in a way that a novice would find themselves confused. Why? Because it's never been intended as a modern, industrialised, sanitised brand. It has not been sweetened up with finishes or anything like that. It's been in bourbon cask, matured and refill cask, and that is basically it. That is it. No added extras. The old school nature of this is very reassuring. And also, it's something else I've got to mention. In case you're wondering why the bottle looks familiar, it's very similar to a Springbank bottle. This is bottled at Springbank Distillery. Glengyle uses exactly the same water source as Springbank Distillery, particularly when they're bottling it. So it's bottled on location. It's not going into the central belt of Scotland to the bottling plant, where it will be, just for safety's sake, put through a chill filtration machine with the chill switched off so that they can boast their virtuous, authentic whisky. We should be suspicious. We need to be suspicious. But at the same time, malt mates, when we're getting genuine whisky properly delivered, we should also be reassured. And that is the case with Kilkerran. As an 8-year-old, up to 10-year-old, I think it's hard to beat. Very singular. This is everything that Scapa could and should be, but isn't and never will while it's owned by Pernod Ricard. Now, if you're a genuine aficionado in whisky, you'll understand exactly what I just said there. You'll see it immediately. Another taste before the malt mark. Just see the nose alone, the zestiness and zinginess and sherbety freshness. I enjoy that so much these days. This is the sort of bottle, here's a handy hint, If you were to buy 2 instead of 1 and put a bottle back in your stash with a wee notice open saying to be opened in the year 2040. No, seriously. In 14 years' time, to be opened in 2040. Store it in a cool, dry place. This is a whisky which is going to be beautifully weather with old bottle effect. It's going to do that. You get a nose for these things when you're around whisky for a while. Final taste. Where's my malt marks? Candy peel, lemon peel, ginger note, sour ginger, prominent sour in the development, really wraps itself round the tongue. Rich, creamy, barley infused vanilla notes, soft vanilla, and sultana, dry sultanas, almost sour sultanas. It's a demanding, expressive sensation whisky. And as you get more experienced and more familiar with whisky brands from all around the world, the way it will head, the direction it will go is the shameless whiskies, the bold whiskies, the unapologetic whiskies, which are what they are, These are the ones you'll come to because your palate's ready for them. And this is a very good example. Lovely, lovely stuff. I'm enjoying this so much. It's a splendid example of a certain style of young whisky where the event can only be successful if it's been properly made with good quality barley and not just what's cheapest at the dealers, at the traders. You need good barley for this that packs the flavour. You need the yeast which is sympathetic to the grain. You need that big, bold, brash, ballsy spirit coming off the still. And then I'm happy to give this 86 out of 100. This review, by the way, has been a joy for me. I've just finished a series of mainstream whiskies. I mixed them up a little bit. There was the non-events, competent non-events, with at least the cask strength Laphroaig, batch number 16, which I really enjoyed, despite the fact that it's diminished through chill filtration. I think someone somewhere in the bottling plant just nudged that chill just a little bit higher up to make it less chilly, to save that brand. But the majority of Laphroaigs, if only Springbank made Laphroaig, we would want every single bottling going. But we have to be patient, malts mates. We have to wait until the independents bottle Laphroaig for us. Or as we call it, Williamson. But recently they've been allowed, my goodness, allowed by the Beam Suntory owners of Laphroaig to call it Laphroaig again. And for goodness sake, at least someone somewhere in a corporation has made a sensible, realistic decision which actually takes account of real customers. Talking of real customers, this is for real customers. I would never recommend this for someone starting, but particularly in the Highlands somewhere, over a buffet, somewhere coastal, somewhere where you've got some savoury oat cakes and some shortbread and a little finger buffet and sausage rolls and, you know, these traditional staples. This would be such a whisky to get the night going. Absolute bundles of character, and Kilkerran as a young whisky delivers it better than most others out there. Cheers. See you soon for my next review, number 1131 Extras, in which I will be talking about brand awareness. And I'll start with Kilkerran. How, when you buy one bottle, it's so tempting to then consider that other bottles should be the same but slightly different, but that's just not how it works. See you there. Bye-bye.